Hey everyone, welcome back to Mind Keys. So, I've been thinking a lot about what it is that makes the difference for people between successfully healing and successfully navigating psychedelics or successfully navigating a growth path versus those that don't, from my own observations, kind of anecdotally, from the people I've known in my life, from other people on the path with me, with myself, and what I've learned from my studies in neurolinguistic programming and hypnotherapy and all the other modalities that I'm always studying. And it's dawned on me that there are some core mindsets that may seem obvious to me or may seem obvious to certain people that not everyone uses or not everyone applies or considers as essential and important for their own healing, for their own mastery of their use of psychedelics, for their own growth path in general and self-actualization, that may be important to making the difference as to whether or not you succeed or don't succeed with this work. So my intention today with this video is to really communicate and lay out three of those to you here in this video. So let's go ahead and start to unpack it here. And just really quick, for anyone who may be new to the channel, this is your first time seeing any of my videos. First of all, thank you very much. And I hope you get something out of watching this video as we proceed into the content here. And I just wanted to introduce myself really quick so you know a little bit about me and the context of how this may have ended up in your feed. So hello, my name is Dave. I'm a coach. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm an NLP practitioner. I've been coaching people about 7 years in all kinds of different areas of life. And recently, a couple of years ago, I decided to pivot with my business and start focusing on my true area of passion, which is this kind of intersection of personal development, spiritual growth, and psychedelics and personal awakening, these kinds of topics. So that's very much what we talk about here on the channel. And yeah, welcome aboard. Welcome to the conversation. I hope you get something out of it, and I hope it really serves you. Thanks for joining the conversation. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, as I said in my video on Monday, I started to introduce the concept of presuppositions. And in Monday's video, I'll try to leave a link. I forget which side. One of these sides above, there should be a card here kind of showing you and pointing you to Monday's video. In that video, I was using the term presuppositions in reference to the presuppositions of NLP or neurolinguistic programming, which are kind of a set of assumptions, basically kind of core filters or perspectives that we take as NLP practitioners to help people effectively make change in their lives, right? But this idea of presuppositions goes further than just the kind of organized presuppositions of NLP. Presuppositions are something we all work with inside of ourselves and in our lives every day. Presuppositions are just basically linguistic assumptions. They're things that have to be true for a sentence or a thought to make sense. And this is a whole other deep topic, a deep video that at some point I'll make, and you guys will probably get a lot out of and blow your mind with. But the thing I want to, the reason I'm referencing it here is that there are presuppositions that people use in order to get good at anything in life. So in order for us to build skill sets, in order for us to achieve something, in order for us to have certain outcomes and certain experiences, a lot of times, in fact, you could say all the time probably, in order for us to get whatever result we're getting, there are presuppositions, there are assumptions built in to the way we are approaching an experience that is part of what creates the results we get. So we want to, in general, really be tracking the assumptions we carry, the presuppositions we carry in ourselves about whatever it is we're up to. So whether it's about ourselves and just general assumptions about who we are as a person, our identity, assumptions about the world, about life around us, about relationships, about society, about whatever endeavor we're up to. So in this case, we're looking at self-healing with psychedelics, or just your personal growth path in general, or successfully having a good experience with psychedelics, or personal healing, getting over anxiety, getting over depression, something like that. Any of these intentions, any of these focuses and orientations carries with it a set of presuppositions. It has to, by the very nature of conceptualizing what it is that we're doing. I hope this makes sense. So I've been thinking a lot about what the presuppositions are, like I said in the intro here, that The people who I find who are successful at personal growth in general and growing and expanding as human beings, the people that are successful at using psychedelics for personal growth, for personal healing, and versus those who I've noticed kind of have what I think is the more common experience of psychedelics, which is, getting high, having breakthrough states, then going back to normal life, then getting high and having breakthrough states, then going back to normal life, and kind of alternating back and forth between breakthroughs and default consciousness, default modes, and there not really being actual growth or progress or transformation. What's the difference there? What makes the difference? And I came up with three crucial core kind of mindsets, if you will, or presuppositions, assumptions, orientations, focuses, however you want to think of this, that make all the difference when it comes to your ability to have success. So the two areas where these three presuppositions I'm about to roll out for you here are going to make the biggest difference for you. First of all, is just going to be with your self-healing path in general. So with your dealing with anxiety, with your dealing with depression, PTSD, social anxiety, whatever kind of issue it is that you might be struggling with and dealing with, these three presuppositions make all the difference in the world. And I would love for you to try them on, explore them, and consider how taking these attitudes in and applying them to the self-healing path you're on could make a huge transformative difference for you. The other area, and again, there's overlap here because of the topic of this channel, the other area is in psychedelic work in general. So these are three things that I think make the difference between people who have ecstatic, amazing, really positive, life-affirming psychedelic experiences more regularly versus those that tend to kind of have just weird, discombobulating, strange, silly, goofy, or maybe even upsetting or just bizarre type experiences that don't really generate much in the way of powerful, positive experiences and content for the person. So without further ado, let's get into these three different mindsets. So the first mindset may sound trite or cliche to you, or like a Hallmark greeting card, if you will. And it's love. Love. And I want you to consider, so what do I mean here? How is love an assumption? How is love a presupposition from which to build a personal development path on, or applied to psychedelic work, right? How to make this make sense, Dave? How does this fit, right? Let me explain here. So I think it's in everyone's best interest to recognize that love is, we could say, a proxy or a symptom of the healed state, of the aligned state, of when you're feeling your best, when you are feeling whole and complete, when you are feeling empowered and full of well-being and full of life and feeling healed, and like whatever issue it is that you've been struggling with is now a thing of the past. You're probably going to experience love in those moments. When you're healed, one of the signs, one of the symptoms that you are in your wholeness, when you're in your alignment, is a deep and profound experience of love. So love is a great kind of metric, a great target to aim for. But here's the other thing. You also want to be using love as a muscle, as an attitude, as a mindset that you're applying to whatever kind of piece or part or moment in your growth path you may be experiencing. So you want to be bringing love to all that you experience and learning how to unconditionally love whatever it is that happens inside of you. So whether this is fear, terror, anxiety, depression, overwhelm, confusion, if you're high on a psychedelic and you get spooked or you get confused or you get caught up in like a thought loop over and over, or all the other kind of like weird places internally that we go, if we learn how to meet whatever experience we're experiencing with complete open-heartedness, with kindness, with love, with acceptance, with embracing, with a generosity of heart, with a willingness to embrace whatever is coming up. So if there's a frightened, terrified part of us, we embrace that frightened, terrified part of us with love. If there's an angry part of us that comes up that's got, righteousness and, rage and is pissed off, we meet that with love. If there is a part of us that is, just wants to run away and tends to dissociate and space out and be distracted, we meet that part of ourselves with love. If we take a psychedelic and we're going through a therapeutic, experience with psychedelics, and we have some memory from the past, some traumatic memory come up, we meet it with as much love as we can muster. We bring love to that. So I hope you're starting to get the gist here. You want to be bringing love as an attitude towards whatever arises in you. This is in contrast to, say, judgment, fear, shame, self-doubt. What else? So again, I would bring love to those very things, to my fear, to my shame, to my self-doubt, to my self-judgment. This is the work. And it's one of these things that I think a lot of people who have done psychedelics or had a profound mystical experience get the message very frequently that love is all there is, or love is the heart of the universe, or the core of life, or the most important lesson in life, things like this, right? And I think what there is to take away from this is to understand that most people go through most of our day-to-day lives. If you really stop and you look at most people, or you stop and you look at yourself and you look at the states you're in as you move through your day, as you move through your week, as you traverse all the different moods and all the different things you focus on and pay attention to and do, and all your habits and all that, how often does a profound state of love for life, for yourself, for those around you, if that's hard to do, because that's hard for a lot of people, working through the blocks of love is a huge piece of this work. Maybe even love for animals, love for pets, love for children, love for whatever it is you can muster love for in life. When you are loving whatever, when you're loving, people, when you're loving yourself, when you're loving whatever, you are the one registering the love. It's your love in your body, in your nervous system, that has to resonate with love in order to love anything around you. So by doing this, not only is it healing, your mindset and your relationship to life around you, it's practicing and training yourself to access that state more frequently. And by doing that, you heal yourself very directly. So this is an important thing in general to understand about thoughts. And this is a whole other conversation too. I'm kind of tapping on lots of different threads here in this video. Thoughts have two different effects. Thoughts give us a linguistic handle to understand, a concept with which we can pick up and work with the world around us. But thoughts also create a physiological response, a neurochemical response in the body every time we think a thought. So if I think, a silly thought, I will feel silly chemicals in my body if I allow that thought to really stew. If I think a fearful thought, I'll have fearful chemicals, et cetera, right? So bringing this all back down, simplifying. Love is such a key concept to internalize, to practice, to apply to ourselves, to apply to whatever happens inside our internal experience, and to apply to life around us as best we can, which may not be perfect. You may have, blocks, you may have limitations, you may have conditions where it's hard to love certain people or certain situations. I understand that's called being a human being. But the thing is, most people live their lives, like I was saying, so rarely in touch with the love in their heart, so rarely experiencing love, so rarely loving, so rarely experiencing their own nervous system resonating with love. It's kind of a rare, foreign feeling to most of us. It's one of these feelings and ideals we all know we should feel more of and yet practice so little of in our day-to-day lives. Think about how much more judgment you might experience in a week than love internally. Think about how much more worry you experience in a week than love. Think about how much, I hope you're getting the point here. Love is so underutilized, and yet it is not only the center of the bullseye of what you're aiming for at the end of whatever your path is, but it's also the way to get there. It's also what you're going to traverse this path with successfully. Now, again, bringing this back to the whole reason I'm making this video, when I think about people who use psychedelics unsuccessfully, in my view, in my opinion, which, it's just one evaluation, it's just one perspective. What I see over and over is that the people who kind of struggle with their mental health and psychedelics don't make the difference, even though they've got hundreds of trips under their belts, is that a lot of times they'll have this message of love. They'll have gotten the message, but they won't have internalized it and they're not practicing it. And especially, let's say they get on psychedelics and they go through all kinds of other states. Maybe they go through playful states or serious, profound states and moments, or, they love to do things in psychedelics, but they're not necessarily applying love to what it is they do. They're not bringing love to each of their own internal experiences. So I want to just, I know I'm going off on this one point, but it's a huge, huge, huge point. I want you to really get this, get that love is so important to this path and to your healing. How are you going to heal if you can't bring love to your own experience? Because the love in you is the deepest, purest, and arguably some of the best part of you. I believe that in our wholeness, love is automatically present. That's been my experience. And in our wholeness, we are more than love, but love is a huge part. It's a massive part of what we are fundamentally. So that's number one here. I'm going to hang it up. I could rant. I've already put 10 minutes just on the topic of love here. I'm going to pause on that because I could keep going at length. I could do an hour on love, no problem. So I'm going to pause it there, but I hope you get the message. It's a very important point to your success. Okay, so the second mindset that I think makes all the difference in terms of success with psychedelics and also in terms of success with your own personal healing path is curiosity. Now, this is so underrated and so crucially key. If you are somebody who you're struggling with anxiety, you're struggling with depression, you're struggling with trauma, you're struggling with some sort of issue that might involve very physical body responses that come with it, a very physical component to it that makes it very real to you, that makes it very intense and overwhelming. And it's not just a conceptual thing. It's not just fear. It's like a somatic thing that happens for you, right? I understand. I get it. I've been there myself. I get it. I totally get it. And yet I want to just encourage you to consider that what's going to help this start to loosen up and become something that's changeable. So instead of it being this thing that's just seems unchangeable because it's so physical and it's so real and it's so just a part of your life, what's going to loosen that up to become more changeable and become more flexible for you, become something you can actually heal and overcome is curiosity. Curiosity is a huge piece. So whatever comes up for you in your own internal experience, if you are simply in reaction to that and kind of considering yourself a victim to your own internal experience and trying to get away from it, run away from it, push it away, excuse me, got to itch my nose. If you are, trying to fight with it and struggle with it and force yourself to not feel that way, right? If you are trying to tune it out and put your attention somewhere else entirely, all of these things are not curiosity. So, what I'm suggesting here kind of lines up with mindfulness loosely. And this is the attitude of turning toward whatever it is you're experiencing internally. So, fear, anxiety, worry, joy, bliss, silliness, seriousness, whatever state arises in you, connect with it with curiosity. Look at it. Be like, I wonder why that's coming up right now. What is the part of me that feels like this is important to present? And how is this helping me in some area of my life? Or how has this become a pattern in my life? Or where have I felt this set of feelings before, perhaps when I was younger? Or what's the first time I can remember feeling this way? Or, how does this fit in to my healing? Right? Questions like this, like you want to get curious about it. What is it that this is showing me? What is it that this is trying to teach me or connect me to about myself, about my own assumptions and views of the world, about life, about people, and understanding, the world I live in a little more effectively and clearly? Like, curiosity empowers you to learn. And curiosity also does another thing. It kind of distances you enough. Like, in order to be curious about your own experience, you have to distance yourself enough from what it is you're experiencing that you can start to look at it and think about it, right? So if, pardon the metaphor here, but if my anxiety is up against my face, my nose, and I can't work with it, I can't do anything with that, right? So if I pull my anxiety away enough to look at it and consider it and get curious about it for a moment, by doing that, then that gives me leverage, that gives me power, that gives me influence over anxiety, but it's also, helps me to have a little distance. It helps me, it creates spaciousness. It creates, room to explore and learn and try new things on. Right? How else do you try new things on except by creating a little bit of space, getting curious about your own experience? You've got to be curious. Why this kind of anger? Why this flavor of anger? Why this flavor of sadness? Why this flavor of fear? Of all the types of fear I've ever felt, why this flavor of fear? Why is my brain going back to this memory over and over and over? What was before that memory? How did I used to be before then? Et cetera, et cetera. There's so much that you can open up and unpack and start to understand about yourself and your healing path and the path forward with curiosity. But if you're not curious, if you are just avoidant or just fighting with it all the time, or dismissive of your own experience, or dismissive of the experience of others, or dismissive of ideas that you encounter, like, I can't tell you how many pieces of my healing path came to me and I wasn't ready to hear them, and I was dismissive of them, and I fucking filtered it out. Not important, not valid, whatever. And lo and behold, further down the line, when I was ready to hear it, when I was ready to take it in, these were the things that made the biggest change for me, that were the most healing, the most transformative. So if I was more curious and really had the eyes to see and the ears to hear, there's a much better chance that I would have sped up my healing process. So not only being curious about your internal experience, but be curious about the timing of what shows up around you in your life. Be curious about the constellation of events and experiences you're having. Be curious about those around you. Be curious about what there is to learn everywhere, and you'll start to learn and see and get it and grow. This is so key. When I see people who aren't growing, generally speaking, one of the commonalities I see is they're not curious. They're not curious internally. They're not in awe and in wonder of their own experience and the mystery of being a fucking human being and being a semi-conscious naked ape on a spinning ball floating through space. Like, there's so much to be curious about. In my opinion, I don't understand how someone could not be curious, except that they're making an unconscious or a conscious decision to simply ignore the information because they don't want to process things. They don't want to be confronted. Curiosity is key. You can't really grow and heal and transform without it. So that's point number 2. Let's talk about point number 3. Okay, before I drop into point number 3, I just want to say really quick, first of all, if you made it this far through the video, I know I make long videos. Hope you're getting something out of it. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate your interaction. I appreciate the comments I've been getting. I appreciate all the new members and all the subs. And I really hope this is adding value to you, because these points, these are hard-won learnings on my end. And these are life-changing things to understand when you really take them in. So I really hope you take this in. Okay, so the last concept here that I want to deliver today is the concept of holding whatever it is you think you know, or that you've experienced, all information loosely. Okay? Hold it loosely, because here's the reality of knowledge as a human being. There's always more that we don't know than that we know. And even inside of the things that we know, there's tons of information about each piece of what we do know that we don't know. I mean, just think about your own life experience, your body, your mind, right? Think about how much about yourself you don't know, about how your own body works, your own biology, your own psychology, your own emotions, right? Your own motivations, probably your own, I could rattle off all kinds of things just about you that you don't know, and you know you better than anyone else, right? Let alone you start to think about other people, right? Think about all that you don't know about all the people you've been closest to in your life. Think about all that you don't know about what hasn't been discovered yet, or hasn't been invented yet, or is being discovered and invented and isn't mainstream knowledge. Think about all the things you don't know about all the things you love, right? For example, I'm an electronic musician. I make music on a computer, and I've been doing it for 20 years now, and I've been a musician for 30 years now. And there's so much I can tell you that I don't know about multiple domains of making electronic music. There's way more that I don't know than that I do know. Now, I can still make effective music, and you can still be an effective human being going about your life, even with all that you don't know. But the point is to hold whatever it is you think you know about your own experience loosely. And there are a lot of different ways that this can apply. So one example would be with your own healing path. Like I was just saying in the example with curiosity, when it comes to your anxiety and your depression or your PTSD or whatever issue you might be dealing with and struggling with, and there's a very physical component to it, right? And it seems really real because you have this intense body shifts and physiology shifts that happen along with the psychological, mental, emotional shifts that happen for you. And because of that, it feels more real, right? And you're certain that it exists, and you're certain that it's called anxiety or called depression, and you're certain that it's a thing that is this particular way to you, right? Now, while all of that may be true in a sense, I want to encourage you to hold all of that loosely. What if depression or anxiety or stress or whatever the issue is isn't what you think it is, or isn't created the way you think it is, isn't solved the way you think it should be solved, or what you've been told? What if what healing is might look different than what you're expecting? What if what's possible for you is so much more than what you believe, or that it's easier to heal than anything you've ever considered? In other words, you want to hold whatever it is you're experiencing and whatever it is you think you know really loosely, because it's all subject to revision. What if the science we have on all this shit is wrong, or will be updated with more accurate, more effective science? Right? What if, I could do an hour video on this, on just what if, People love to hold on to their experience and to their concepts and to their view and their perspective of reality, including the reality of themselves, as if it's solid and factual and real and just like hard. Largely, we like to hold this perspective because it gives us a sense of security, a sense of safety, a sense of being able to know how to trust life at a basic level and navigate life because we know what the building blocks and the pieces in play are, because we're assuming they're all real and this is what is so. Right? But that same perspective, also freezes things in place for you and locks you in a stuck way of being. And, nowhere is this more like evident and true than I would say with psychedelics. So one of the things that happens with psychedelics is we have epiphanies, right? We have realizations. And part of that often involves coming up with new theories about whatever, about life, about the cosmos and the universe, the transpersonal reality. Are we living in a simulation? About ourselves, about psyche, about emotions, about spirituality, about, history, about whatever. Like, people come up with all these crazy, interesting, cockamamie sometimes, abstract, out there, interesting, far out, sometimes brilliant ideas on psychedelics. It's a very common experience, right? So our meaning making runs wild on psychedelics. And when our meaning making is running wild in all these different ways, creating all these new abstractions and connections between different perspectives and things we had never really thought deeply before about, we start thinking deeply about. And if we're not careful, what can happen is as we come down or even in the midst of the trip, we become convinced that something that we're perceiving is true. It's fact. It's real. This is how it fucking is. And that's a mistake. That's dangerous. It might be that you perceive something that is on point, that is accurate. I do know that this happens, that we do have these experiences of epiphanies and they're spot on. And sometimes we innovate amazing new ideas. There's a great history actually of brilliant people innovating brilliant things from their use of psychedelics. Steve Jobs, of course, gets, cited a lot. The guy who created, or theorized DNA, same thing that happened from psychedelics. The mouse that we use for computers, same thing. There's a whole history of that, of real actual innovations that have come from psychedelic use. So I'm not saying to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. What I'm saying is we need to quality control our thinking. And if we don't quality control our thinking, we end up with these crazy, weird, spun out, far out, bizarre philosophies and theories about life that even as we try to articulate them to other people become so absurd as they leave our mouths and clearly don't make as much sense to others as they do to us a big chunk of the time. Or they become, just these weird belief systems that often can really kind of distort a person. And I'm sure we all know that weird, wacky, or just even as an archetype, that strange, far out hippie guy who's just kind of rambling on some weird pseudo philosophy kind of, weirdness. And I sound like I'm being judgmental in the way I'm describing this, but, I'm just saying, whether or not that stuff's valid or not is not for me to say. But what there is for me to say is that there is a danger with psychedelics of believing and drinking our own Kool-Aid, kind of believing our own nonsense to the point that we start to live through it as though it were real. And that can have real, very real, lasting implications in our day-to-day life. So this is a great education because you will inevitably, if you do psychedelics enough, come up with some of these, then you come down and then you have to really sift through, did that make sense? Was that real? Was I right? Or you can suffer the consequences of believing something that may or may not be accurate or true and kind of living inside a bubble of misunderstanding for any length of time, from a short while to the rest of your life. So the mistake there, and I'll be making another video about this very soon, is basically holding on too tightly and taking too personally the information that comes up. Sometimes from your unconscious mind with psychedelics, you might believe a trauma happened to you that didn't. You'll get some inner voice that says, so-and-so happened to me, and maybe it never happened, or you might have, just all kinds of things like this can happen where it may or may not be true, and there's no clear way to tell. And so we need to be able to quality control our thinking by evaluating it. The only way we can do that is if we're willing to hold whatever it is we see or believe about ourselves, our experience, life around us, reality, and the cosmos. Hold it loosely. Hold it loosely. And in that holding it loosely, you're able to learn, you're able to evaluate, you're able to get insight, you're able to see things from different perspectives that you just can't if you're not. If you're holding onto it tightly and it's got to be this one way, you're never going to allow yourself the freedom to explore whatever it is you might need to learn about your anxiety, about your depression, about your personal history, about your traumas, about navigating life. You're never going to learn and grow into these new learnings and evolve and master the situation and transform it and find the tools if you're holding on tightly. So this is the third one. I'm done after this. We're going to end here in just a moment, but I just want to make this point that these three are super crucial to your personal development. And these are three things that a lot of people, these are presuppositions. These are often baked in at a deep level for people. And a lot of people don't do these things. And because they don't do these things, I'm telling you, it steers you astray. To not live love steers you astray. To not make love the way that you're meeting yourself and meeting the world and meeting everything you learn. What if, for example, you got some trauma that you need to address that you've been ignoring? If you don't have the capacity to meet that with love, it's going to make it so much harder, right? And again, curiosity. If you're not curious about your own experience, you're just going to ignore and keep stuff stuck, right? And if you're not curious about those around you, you're never going to learn more about what, makes the difference for you to get where you want to go in your life. You can't grow if you're not curious. If you're like the less curious you are, the more stuck you are. And third, if you're holding information tightly, it's going to also make you rigid, make you stuck, make you overwhelmed, make you really bought into one particular paradigm. And that's going to limit and restrict your ability to heal, to transform, to grow, to learn, to enjoy life. So these three things, try them on: love, curiosity, and holding all information loosely, or having an open mind, however you want to think about that. I know this has been a long video. Hopefully this has been engaging and this makes sense. And instead of me just rattling on it and you being like, I can't deal, that this is all like really hit home for you, because these are three crucial things that a lot of people don't apply. And you'll look around and you'll notice the people who don't have love in their heart, who aren't curious, who are holding on to their beliefs and their views too tightly, they all suffer more. So, handing you some keys here. I hope you use them. I hope this lands for you. I hope this makes sense to you. And I truly wish you all the best. Sending you all my love. I've got so much more great content on the way. And I'm just about to start filming a new course. I just want to let you guys know about really quick here at the end of the video. About to start filming a new course that I think you guys are really going to like. It's going to be a 7-day process of follow along tools that you can just learn and apply to your anxiety. So I'm going to be taking you through the process of basically what I did to heal my own anxiety. So you can just do this on your own. It's going to be super affordable. It's going to be 7 days. It's going to be interventions. It's going to be hypnotherapy. It's going to be the most powerful tools that I know of. I'm going to make it simple so it's not all complicated. Very easy to follow, very effective. 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, something like that, and you'll get results. So anyways, big love to you all. Thanks for watching. More videos on the way soon. Take care and have a beautiful weekend.